so you wear those pucks down. And so we make all these little products for racing, but also a lot of street gear like the jackets and gloves. And that's really what we're pushing at our next step.
Yeah.
So
And we don't do the helmets, but we have a couple of really good partnerships with like helmet
Sure.
companies. We have an air vest that we partner with,
yeah.
and we resell their products.
Hmm.
So
Okay, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's much easier than trying to specialize at
Yeah.
also helmets.
yeah,
Yeah,
Good for
helmet's a whole
you.
different deal. So, a
Yeah.
whole different game. So people were like, "Can you guys make helmets? Can you guys make helmets?" And, okay, well, we'll partner with a company and
Yes.
sell you the helmet from them. So,
Yes.
that's how
Who
it works.
who made the first suit? Which one of you knows how to sew? Or did you
None,
commission
neither of
someone?
us.
Okay, how
Neither
did
of
you
us.
get
No,
that
we
done?
contract out the production. So we do have an overseas supplier, and
Yeah.
that's really how it started. Was one of these suppliers reached out to me directly and said, "Hey, I want to make you a suit. I see that you're racing, and I said, okay." It was
Oh,
very inexpensive. It was a fraction of the price of what I would have paid for a nice suit. So I'm like,
right,
worst case, this doesn't work out and I'll get another suit. And so
right.
I received it and it was really nice. Like looking, I opened the box, I'm like, wow. And I took it out of the pack out of the box. I'm like, this is really light and flimsy. And it was kind of cheesy,
Oh,
the leather was very thin and the padding wasn't very good. But I went ahead and I wore that suit because I was so excited about it and it fit me
yeah.
bad and just everything.
Well,
In hindsight, I never should have worn that suit, but I was so excited to like, I wanted to look good. So I
yeah,
got
of
out on the
course.
track and my first 3 laps in that suit, I crashed. So when I
No.
crashed, I actually got all bruised and banged up. The suit ripped and just it was a mess. So I wrote the guy back and I said, "Listen, your suit did not work." And he goes,
Right.
"Well, I really want to sell, more stuff in the United States. Can you help me?" And I said, "I'll help you develop this, but I want it to be my brand and I'll give you
Okay.
all the info." So he said, "Okay." So we started down that road. That's really about the time she came to me and said she had wanted to do something. I'm like, perfect. So
Yeah.
at that point, then we started developing the product and I had a couple more suits made. They did better and better. And the last one, I crashed several times. My buddies that I was racing with saw me crashing and they're like, "Wow, your suit's doing really good." And I said, "Okay, yeah, you see this Bison thing? This is my brand. And so I need you guys
Yes.
to wear it next year." And they're like, "What?" And I was like, "This is me. Like, let's go." So we had like 5 people, racers, fellow racers of mine, that switched from the big name brand suits and
Oh
went to
my
our
God.
Bison suit. And they all crashed the heck out of them that year. They all
Yeah.
looked great. They crashed, and people then it just blew up. People were like, "Oh man, I need one of those. I can get one of those for under $1,000 and it does that good. Okay, I'll get one." And it
Oh,
just started taking off.
wow.
So
That is
we actually
amazing.
shortly after we started, we got a different supplier. Um,
Okay.
and then so now, I'll talk more about this later, I'm sure, but like our first products are kind of laughable now, but that was our
Yeah.
MVP, right? Those are our
Of
minimally viable
course.
product that we went ahead and launched and it did the job, but now they're so much better, right? So
That's so cool. I mean, I whenever anybody brings up MVP, I always bring up the iPhone. Like the original, if you take out your iPhone from today and you look at the very first model, you'd say, "Oh my gosh, this is almost like a toy. This is a joke."
right.
But Apple makes like small incremental changes over time, and pretty
Yeah.
soon you go from that to this. And,
Yeah.
that was really good advice. We got advice in my season on the blocks about that too. Like, get something out there, see if there's even a market for it, especially, if you're
Yeah.
inventing something. In your case, you knew there was a market for it already, right? You just needed to
Yep.
figure out like the how to get it done the best way, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. That is so cool. So did you end up continuing to work with the first fellow that you met?
A little bit. We stopped using that factory for suits, but we
Okay.
continued using them for things like gloves and also the like crew shirts for the pit crews and stuff. We make those, and so we're using them for that. But with overseas vendors, sometimes you a little bit of a language barrier and a
Oh yeah.
communication issue, and that was
Right.
a challenge with them. We liked them. It was a smaller business, a family business, but
Mhm.
and we tried to support them as long as we could. The language barriers, sometimes it would just
Too
as
much.
we grew and our orders increased and increased and increased, if we had 5 orders a month for crew shirts and some of them were wrong. That was fine. But when we got to like 30 orders a month for crew shirts, and a bunch of them are wrong, then it's way too much managing. It's like if we
Oh,
can't get this right,
that's
we got to move on. And so we kind of done that. I still keep in touch with them, but unfortunately, it just as we got bigger, we outgrew them.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? That sounds like, I mean, that's a huge error rate. If was it really like 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6?
In this industry, that's kind of,
Yeah, I
I
was
mean,
gonna say
one out of 10.
that hasn't really changed.
Is
I
that
mean,
right?
yeah, and that's why we talk about like what we're doing right now is literally the hardest thing we could possibly do in this big ocean of business. We're doing this very, very difficult thing. And so we know that, but we've wanted to really like perfect this
Yeah.
and then expand from there. So
Yeah.
we figure if we can do this, we can do anything, because we do
Absolutely.
realize like road racing, you have to be in like, you have to be able to stand up comfortably in the suit, but then you have to be able to move at all angles
Right.
in the suit, and it has to work. Whereas like other types of racing are less, I
Less punishing, like on
a
the
drag
suit.
race, like just kind of,
Oh,
yeah. So you like a drag race, you just sit on a bike and go straight fast,
yeah,
whereas
yeah.
road racing, you go through the corners and you have to like move off the
Yeah.
bike. And so we just feel like if we can do this really well, then the other stuff will be quote unquote easy, or at least easier.
Yeah.
So
There's
Now,
been a lot
do
of
you
things.
guys make them customized to every individual person?
yes.
Most of the time. That's what we're known for is custom, but we
Yeah.
do have offer rack sizes and products as well now. So we started that a couple years ago doing the off rack sizes, but that's a small percentage of what our business.
But that is where
Okay.
we will expand,
Yeah,
is on that
that's
side of
our
things.
future goals.
How do you get all the measurements?
So that's the trick. And coming into this, we were looking at your questions, and it was like, all right, what are some of the challenges that we face?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think the biggest
Is
challenge
that
for
your
us,
highest hurdle?
it is because
Yeah.
1 out of 10, there's so many moving pieces that go into. So, like this suit, for instance, we would take 32 measurements from the person, and
Of
then we
course.
we figure out the design, all the colors, the layout, and then we apply any sponsor logos, numbers, names, stuff like that, and then we have to put it to production and make sure that the factory overseas translates it as close as they can from a design draft, a digital draft,
Yeah.
into making it by hand, implementing all those measurements accurately, making sure the logos are the right sizes and colors and all this stuff. So you see all these moving pieces that go into this. The
Yeah.
customer gets the item, under 60 days it's in their hand.
Yeah.
And 1 out of 10 times it's like, hey, this is the wrong red, or this is the wrong number. You guys have
Oh.
18 instead of 81, or my arms are too long, or I just can't fit in the dang thing. What's going on? So then we have to go through this issues resolution process. That's tough.
What's your process? What's your process for that? Because I mean, that
For
sounds
that,
like a huge mess.
We have we have a person that's solely dedicated to that side of
yeah,
things. So she, we have a process for the intake. Once an issue's been identified, they have a form they have to fill out where they document all the issues. So that's one thing we've learned over the years, is like it used to be less of a process, more of just a conversation. And
Yeah.
now it's like, then we would find out, hey, I actually had 3 issues, not just 2. And
Oh
we're like,
my
well, you didn't tell us about
gosh.
the 3rd issue up front. So now we have this form. It's like, you have to fill out this form and tell us what your issues are.
tell us all the issues.
If it's
Yeah,
not on this form,
Yeah.
it's not making it through the process. So
Yeah.
we've had to put things in place. But yeah, we
yeah,
have a person solely dedicated to that.
What if
yeah.
someone calls and says, like, this just doesn't fit? Like, I can't get my body in here. What do you do at that point?
Yeah,
You have to
so
start
that's
from the
part
beginning?
of Yeah, that's part of what she does, is she assesses whether it's like an easy, can we alter it
Yeah.
and fix the issue, or do we have to completely remake the suit? And so we do remake suits, and then we'll take like the old suit back, and we've like we'll change the design, like we'll take the numbers and the names off of it and the
Yeah.
logos, and re basically revamp it, and then we have a process for trying to resell those as well to
Oh, that's
recoup
cool.
that cost.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's smart. Oh my gosh.
We kind of go above and beyond, and this is one of the things that differentiates us from our competitors is that we have written guarantees and policies in place that really protect the customer. For
Okay.
instance, most companies, if you measure yourself at home, like if
Yes.
I have her measure me and the suit doesn't fit, it's like, well, you're out of luck,
Sorry.
right?
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
us, we say, okay, you can measure at home. You got to watch our YouTube video that walks you through it. Use our
Right.
form, go through a checklist, and then we get on a video call with you. And one of our gear customization specialists watches her take
That
my
makes
measurements
sense. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
says, "Oh, you're doing it wrong," whatever. If they go
Yeah.
through all those hoops and it doesn't fit, then we say, "Okay, we will still assume responsibility for it and take care of you." So we go above and beyond, and even though it costs us that money in the short term,
Yeah.
we might break out of that sale, break even, and or even go into the red in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
They're going to tell their friends like, "Man, that was a crappy situation. Any other company would
Yes.
have left me high and dry, but Bison really took
Yeah.
care of me." And they're repeat customers, and they send friends to us.
Yeah.
So
For
We learned
sure.
early on that it was much better for our reputation as we were growing to just
Yeah.
take care of the situation